Ron Mayse. Excited to have you here. And what I really wanted to do today was go over the proof of concept that one that we've done in the past, and then also things that you've learned and things that that would set up companies well in the future to make sure that if they are engaging with a clinic or I don't know that it'd be a hospital, but a clinic for the proof of concept, that it would go smoothly. So what have you seen? I mean, what have you seen that maybe people or foreign companies wouldn't know coming to the US that maybe misconceptions and then also things that would make it easier for adoption?
Well, thanks, Sean. Appreciate you having me on the podcast today. We have had some experiences, right, with implementation. So
Hmm.
we've had some what works well and what could work better, right? So some of the misconceptions I think that depending upon this type and style of project, the speed of the implementation to a purchase, right? So the bigger the system, the slower the boat turns, right? So it's a 6 month to a 1 year period is realistic.
Hmm.
And depending upon the type of proof of concept, it could go a year and a half, right?
Hmm.
It's not uncommon because it's there's a reason they're big and they do things procedurally, they do things by processes, and it takes a lot of groups to come together to have a consensus on the best way to implement this and how it would affect the clinical team, the management team, the accounting team. So there's a lot of things of the puzzle pieces of the puzzle we need to make sure they're all connected. So it's not the biggest thing I would see is not going to happen in a month or 2 months or 3 months on a large scale from proof of concept to sale. Smaller clinics and things are even small rural area hospitals, the smaller the system, the easier it is to turn. So, rightfully so, they're cautious on all new ideas and new products. So we need to have a solid proof of concept.
Mm, totally. And I think that's a good point that you brought up about the larger the system, the more people need to approve of it. And can you maybe share some of the hesitations or considerations that go on in those meetings or discussions internally?
Yeah, sure. Well, there's many, right? There's so many different, and depending upon the product that we're talking about, which subject groups are going to be involved. But first of all, you're going to have buy-in from those that are affected the most, so the end user of the product. So if it's a clinical product, that would be a device of some kind or a software of some kind, anything that the clinicians are going to be using. So we have to ensure that it doesn't impede workflows or processes or time spent with the patient, right? Because they're under a burden of the amount of patients they can see in a given day, right? So they need to be more effective at what they do. Anything that drags the the consultation longer without an proven return on investment, right? It's probably going to be met with hesitancy, right? Because they're working hard, they're documenting a lot more than they used to document. So time is a very valuable resource for all parties in the clinical side. So once the clinical side would get on board, then we would need to have the finance team on board, right? So there has to be what's it going to cost to implement? What's it going to cost to maintain? What's it going to cost to train, right? So there's those functions that come in. How soon is the ROI going to be on it for two ways? Not only the financial amount, but also for the system and the patient, right? So the outcome is to have better patient outcomes with lower readmission rates. Right, that's the goal of every health system. We're all here to make our patients better, right? That's our goal. But we also are still a business, right? We would love to give everything away if we could, but we have very large expenditures that keep these processes going. So those things to keep in mind.
Totally. And I think that's an interesting point that you're bringing up, and especially about the finance team. How how is the finance team calculating this if it's a new product? Or let's say it's even been on the market. Is it past evidence, or are they asking other clinics or hospitals of similar size? Or I'm curious how they're calculating this or imagining it.
Well, the bigger the system, right, the more hesitant they are at being first,
Mm,
right? They like to see an extensive clinical trial, extensive proof of concept, and extensive um, buy-in from the clinical side and on the return on investment, right? So
mm,
as well, you can see there's everybody's trying to come to them for something, this fantastic new product, and it probably is fantastic, right? But everybody's baby's cute, right? Everybody thinks their
exactly.
baby's the cutest baby in the
Yes.
world, so we have to go out and prove this fact to the systems. That's why some of the smaller systems that don't have the resources and the revenue streams that the bigger systems have are a little more available, all
Mm.
right, or maybe more engaged on new proof of concepts as an additional revenue stream and an ability to be first, right?
Mm.
To set themselves apart from the bigger systems, right?
Yes. Got it. I've seen that too. So from your experience, I mean, with the past proof of concept project, I think that could be a viable strategy is go to a smaller clinic that would maybe appreciate or is not, they're not hearing about new technologies first, right?
Yeah.
A clinic that would be more open and maybe flexible and interested in implementing it quicker, and then using that to go elsewhere.
Yeah, and not all small clinics are created equal, if you will, from an influence standpoint. There are clinics out there that are affiliated with larger systems. So if we chose that clinical area, that clinic to do this POC, then when it goes well, right? Hopefully it goes well.
Exactly.
So as soon as the POC is a positive result, then
Mm.
they could present it to their larger partner, right? So there are differences in which clinics that you try depending upon the product.
That's an interesting like insider thought. So if a clinic is affiliated with a larger system, are they're still independent and can choose what they want to do and what tools they want to use, or are they contractually like obligated to use all the purchases of the larger system? I'm just curious. I've never seen the inner workings super detailed of how that works.
It's a little bit varies from it depends on the involvement and the investment from the larger facility, of course,
Mm,
like any partnership, right?
yeah.
Is it just investing in the technology and something and those mannerisms, or is it a complete owning of the staff, right? There's an affiliation and then there's ownership, right? So as long as it remains independent and it's just affiliated, then that basically just means we're sharing patients, we're sharing referrals, we're sharing um, maybe even software systems. We're performing. I've seen that quite a bit as well. That's another affiliation, but it helps referral process. It helps the clinic, right? It helps the clinic
Mm.
it makes and for the patient as well. They have one portal to go to maintain a medical record for themselves.
Mm. Okay. Awesome. I think that could be a very interesting strategy or route. If a clinic who is affiliated with a larger system is interested in a pilot program, but they're not
Mhm.
completely owned or they don't have to have approvals from the larger group, but they have their
Mhm.
independence, but they still have the
Mhm.
connections in to be able to show and say, hey, this worked, these were the results. Here's the actual on the court data that we found.
It's nice when all the decision makers are in the same demographic in the same building,
In the
right?
same build, exactly. You can just go and actually talk with them and not have to set up a meeting in 2 months and do it at
Yes.
your
You
quarterly
can
stand-up.
almost get it done in one meeting. You can get it to where the second meeting will be probably the approval or
Mm,
we don't have it depends if they have the availability of the resources requested, which is probably leads into the next question, but being very specific in the ask of resources because it may be something they would love to do, but they're happen to be shorthanded in the area of staffing that they would need to implement this project. So the more specific, then we can laser in on where we need to go.
I agree. And I think they're probably also afraid of what they call it scope creep or project creep.
Mhm.
And they just turns out, oh, yeah, by the way, can you do this one more thing? Oh, no, actually, we need help with this. Oh, and urgently calling, hey, this needs to be done, right? And that's, I think, is also a concern if it's not super, there's not clear boundaries of this is the project, this is in scope, this don't worry about, this is not.
Yeah, and the biggest thing though is everybody would love to do these things, right? I mean, it's not that we're, there it's time. We're very understaffed, and we're very heavily, patient to physician ratios is high. If you go to any waiting room, you'll see that it's a system that's used a lot. So we have to be very cognizant of what the burden, I wouldn't say burden, but the additional ask of time
Mm,
on from everyone from the front window personnel to the person doing a pre-registration visit to the PA or the MP that's inside the room prior to the physician coming in, then the physician themselves, then the billers, and right on out to the exit
mm.
for rescheduling. So there's a 5 to 7 occupational groups inside of there that we need to be cognizant of what we're asking for the return that they're going to receive, right?
Mm. Got it. Got it. Got it. I was thinking also, I want to hear your take on what do you think is an ideal size like of a clinic that would fit? And I know so it varies on the product and the ask and whatnot. And what comes to mind is a clinic that's big enough to have enough patients of the ask of the company, but small enough that, like you said, they can make decisions internally.
I generally something 15 physician and under
Mm,
is generally, once you get much over that, when you get into 50 plus, they generally have a centralized accounting department, a centralized
mm,
management group where they're just basically just doing the clinical. So now you're having a meeting here for the finance department, the management team, the implementation team, the tech team. And then we're over here talking to the clinicians and the end users, and then we come bring them all together somewhere. So
mm.
15 and under physicians, I mean, it's going to get you a pretty, that's enough patients to accommodate, I would think, most of any.
Got it. And what would you say is a good I don't know, maybe length, duration, number of patients for the company, the clinic, and also prospective future buyers that they would get a good sense of what this product is and evidence that it integrated smoothly.
Probably again comes back a little bit more to the product because some of them may be very specialized. It's just a very small percentage of the overall patient volume.
Mm,
So basically, roughly in this area, the average physician has around 1,400 patients on their book.
got it.
So you can use that as a rule of thumb, and of that you can decide the percentages of whatever product or what demographic group that would affect. So you can multiply if it's 10% or 30%, then of the 1,400 would start to give you the numbers and probably the test minimum. I mean, the good number is always 100 to me, because 50's would be minimal,
Yeah,
but that could be, that's any insurance company would say that's not near enough, right? To do
exactly.
to do an
Exactly.
actuary table, right? To get an accurate.
Exactly.
So 100's good to me. That's a nice number and it sounds big enough, but it's not 10,000 or 1,000. It's doable and it sounds more in depth than 50. Like you had better chance of a proof of POC being accurate.
Awesome. And I guess just to wrap it up, if someone wanted to get in contact with you or was interested in a POC in the Dayton area or the greater Ohio region, Southwest Ohio region, how would they reach out and what information do you think they should come prepared with, or rather idea to help expedite the process?
Well, we we have the Southwest Ohio Healthcare Affiliates as part of the association here, and what that is, it's the group purchasing organization, and our job is um, to reach out and find new vendors or opportunities that could benefit the health outcomes of the regions that we serve. And so we have a link for all new vendors who have an inquiry about becoming a member or a proof of concept or whatever their ask would be. And that starts the process. It comes to me and we start a vetting process for that. As far as after that initial email, we would send out something to them asking for very specific information.
Mm,
And the more specific, the better. I mean, you can't get too much detail for the ask, right? So we would need to know the duration of time requested, whether it be a 6 month trial to receive 100 patient outcomes or a 3 month trial, or realistic time frame.
mhm.
We don't want to put pressure or push, right? So we want to make it a doable time frames. So they'll say, yeah, that's no problem, or we don't want them to first look at it and go, no, that might be a stretch. So we want to be cognizant of that time factor again for the practices. And then what we from previous ones, the only places I've seen where we could really have improved was on the time frames of requests. So we would look to try to get, if we're asking for 100, we'd have a meeting on every 25. So we'll divide it into 4 meetings, and we can go ahead and preload some date and times for those meetings at the onset,
Mm.
right? So we don't get halfway into it and we're trying to play email tag to get meetings set up. So in the beginning, once they've agreed to do the trial, then the first thing we would do, I think we would need to set up regular interval meetings every 2 weeks or something at a same set time
Mm.
with the parties that would be able to provide valuable feedback, so we don't wait 2 or 3 months into the system and find out if we could have improved that from week 2. So
Got it.
maybe every couple of weeks would be the biggest thing that I saw. That with communication, I guess it really comes back to communication. Everybody wants to do the right thing. As long as we know what we're supposed to be doing instead of what we think we're supposed to be doing,
Yep.
would be helpful.
Beautiful. Well, with that, Ron, I want you to be a guest of the show, so I'm excited. We'll have a follow up, but super appreciative of your time and the information. And I'll put the
Right.
link in the description.
Sounds wonderful. Well, thanks for having me, Sean. Have a great
Yeah,
day.
absolutely. See ya.
All right.